Good evening everyone. So today we will start the next part of the chapter 1 class 11 of book ncert. So next part what it is telling, let us see. Reproduction likewise is a characteristic of living organisms. So earlier I have told you, explained you also that reproduction is a chapter of living. In the same manner reproduction likewise is and it is the characteristic of living organism. In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. So let us first come to know what do you mean by multicellular organisms. Multicellular organisms means the organisms which has more than one cell in their body, as such as human being. So one human being, suppose a man marries to a woman, and when he and marries, but what happens, but when a man and a woman try to reproduce a progeny, means an infant, that infant either it looks more similar to its parents or less similar to its parents. So the given that woman give birth to a when give birth to a child, that woman that child either it looks similar to its father or to his mother, either, and the similarity may be more or less. So this is the explanation of this statement. In multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny possessing features more or less similar to those of parents. So let's what it has written. Invariably and implicitly we refer to sexual reproduction. So such kind of similarity, such kind of feature is directly seen in sexual reproduction. So when a man and a female sexually reproduce a child, that child either looks less similar or more similar to those of his or her parents. Organisms reproduce by asexual means also. So now I have told that such kind of similarity is seen in sexual reproduction, but in asexual means also, but in asexual reproduction also such kind of similarities is coming to be seen. So let's next statement. Fungi multiply and spread easily due to the millions of asexual spores they produce. So there are many asexual spores which are produced in the environment, and fungi multiply by it and produce a new progeny. So next, in lower organisms like yeast and hydra, we observe budding. So let us come to know first that what is the meaning of budding. Budding means an organism when give rise to another organism similar to itself by getting attached with each other, and when they both get, and when the new organism get detached from the old organism, then it is known as budding. Such kind of reproduction is known as budding. So these kind of reproduction is seen in yeast and hydra. So this is the explanation of the statement that in lower organisms like yeast and hydra we observe budding. So next statement. In planaria, flatworms, we observe true regeneration. That is, a fragmented organism regenerates the lost parts of its body and becomes a new organism. So what do you mean by regeneration? Regeneration means if some part of the body gets cut, and after when it's produced the same organism which has got cut in that same place of that or body or organism, then it is known as regeneration, and it is seen in planaria. So in planaria we observe true regeneration, that is the fragmented organism regenerates the lost parts of its body and becomes a new organism. Fragmentation, what do you mean by fragmentation? Fragmentation means an organism which gets divided into different pieces and gets collectively in one place is known as fragmentation. So let us come to the next statement. We will come to know about it very clearly. Don't worry about that. Let us see. Now see, come. The fungi, the filamentous algae, the protonema of mosses all easily multiply by fragmentation. So how fungi multiply? Fungi multiply by fragmentation. One part of the body get divided into different pieces and they are collected in one place, and those different pieces get again multiply and become one new organism. This is how fungi divide and multiply by fragmentation and produce new fungi. So next come to the next statement. the statement is cleared. Now next we come to the next statement. When it comes to unicellular organisms like bacteria, unicellular algae or amoeba, reproduction is synonymous with growth, and in that is increase in number of cells. So what do you mean by, first let's come to know first what do you mean by synonymous. Synonymous means similar, and the where bacteria, growth of bacteria and unicellular algae or amoeba is the process of growth of bacteria. I mean to say that the process of growth of bacteria and unicellular algae or amoeba is same as the increase in cells. That is, either they give to another birth, either they give birth to another organism or they get divided. Okay, let's see the next. We have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number of mass, hence cell number of mass. Hence we notice that in single celled organisms, okay, we have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. So earlier I have also explained of this chapter video that increase in mass means increasing in weight, and increasing in weight, that means it is it is growing. So this has explained in the sentence clearly that we have already defined growth as equivalent to increase in cell number or mass. So if there is increasing in weight or increasing in cell number, that means the organism is growing. Okay, now let's see the next statement. Hence we notice that in single celled organism, we are not very clear about the usage of these two terms, growth and reproduction. Now let's see. We have seen in second statement of this paragraph that in multicellular organisms, reproduction refers to the production of progeny. And so multicellular organisms refers to the production of progeny is clear, but single cell organism, we are still unknown about that and about its fact that growth, and that is growth and reproduction. Okay, so we are not clear about these two terms, growth and reproduction of single celled organism. Okay, now let's come to the next statement. Further, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. Okay, so we have seen that multicellular organisms reproduce. So single cell organism reproduce or not has been not clearly explained still now. And some organisms reproduce by sexually, some reproduce by asexually. But now it is telling that there are many organisms which do not reproduce. So there are also some kinds of organisms which do not reproduce only, and they are such as mules, sterile worker bees, infertile human couples, and etc. Okay, now let's come to the next statement. Hence reproduction also cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. So reproduction is not only an inclusive defining characteristic of reproduction of living organism, sorry, not reproduction, of living organism. So reproduction also cannot be an all inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. So living organisms, especially which are single celled, sometimes do not produce. So that's why reproduction also sometimes cannot be defined as a characteristic of living organism. Okay, so not single cell, there are many organisms which do not reproduce. In the first before in the in the last statement you have seen, it has written that further there are many organisms which do not reproduce. That's why it is telling, hence reproduction also cannot be an all-inclusive defining characteristic of living organisms. As some organism does not reproduce, that's why reproduction cannot be a characteristic of living organisms. Okay. Of course, no non-living object is capable of reproducing or replicating by itself. So it is very common. So it is very easy. It's a very common thing to know that non-living object does not reproduce neither they reproduce and they does not replicate by itself. Either if they will multiply with other living organism, then only they can reproduce, otherwise non-living objects does not reproduce. So this is the end of the topic today, and I request to the students that please try to read these paragraphs more and more, so if there kind of will be any doubts or any confusions, you will be get cleared by reading this, and try to read it and get to understand it. This is the process how you can understand the topics and the statements and the paragraphs. Okay, have a good day and a good luck. Bye.